Recently, we got the full reveal of Ashes of the Damned, the launch experience for Black Ops 7 Zombies. And with the gameplay trailer, we got to see more of the map as well as within the intel previews. We got more information on the characters and even more information regarding the story than I expected. Not long after the trailer, we also received 2 extensive blog posts breaking down details about the map and gameplay, with the final reveal of Zombies being playable in the beta next week. As exciting as it all was, I think the sheer volume of information has managed to overwhelm most content creators because there's literally about an hour and a half worth of blog information, and so in discussing all of these new gameplay changes and additions, much of the story related content has gone to the wayside. So in this video, I want to break down a few things of note from the trailer and blog post I noticed, which help us build a much clearer picture of the story of Ashes of the Damned. We'll start with some of the stuff we can cover more briefly, and by the end of this video, we'll dig into the longer topics. Firstly, the odd purple tentacles that seem to be coming down from the sky. In some of the original images we got of Ashes of the Damned, these purple streaks seem to be a part of the skybox. However, in the new trailer, we get a wide shot of the map from sky level as well. Once again, we get in the intel preview some B-roll shots of the open map, where we get a clear look at the skybox. And in these shots, we can see the purple energy tendrils reaching down from the large storm in the sky and connecting to a point at every point of interest. This initially reminded me of the Origins generators, and how in the reveal trailer you can see the tops of some of them lit up because they are already activated. Here though, the beams continue high into the sky and all seem to converge at a central point we can't quite see. After giving this some time, I'm beginning to wonder if this isn't somehow related to exactly how the different locations wind up here mashed together. Even if these beams of energy are connecting to each power generator at each location, could they also be the very energy that manifested these specific locations? Somehow in the sky, there's some sort of rune magic casted by the Grey Voice, the Warden, that we don't yet see, that brought all of these locations together for explicit reasons. There's the potential that each point of interest is connected to our characters somehow, and we will go over that a bit later. The Cosmodrome here is specifically not the one from Ascension, and so may somehow be related to Weaver's trip to the Cosmodrome in the campaign prior, as it seems to be a lot more based off of the campaign level from Black Ops 1 / the launch multiplayer map that of course Ascension is based on. Janus Towers would obviously bear a connection to Requiem, and with most of the map being Liberty Falls, and us also seeing a grave of the person with the last name Dempsey in Liberty Falls, I wonder if Liberty Falls isn't somehow connected to Tank Dempsey. The only outlier here would then really be Ashwood, the old western town, but I'd like to talk more on it specifically and a potential connection to the villainous character a bit later in the video. But yeah, it is interesting if we are going to see some backstory with Weaver. Back in the day in the campaign is where he got his eye gouged out in the Cosmodrome by Colonel Kravchenko, who we haven't really seen in the Dark Aether story since Black Ops Cold War. Another thing of note was the jump pads featured in the trailer. They depict 2 things that separately don't necessarily mean a ton, but when looked at in tandem, definitely raise some implications. The jump pads depict Group 935 logos on them, showing us that a version of Group 935 created these dual path jump pads, likely the same Group 935 our current new Dark Aether Richtofen is from. And we know he's from a timeline where the Nazis won World War II, probably due to Group 935's advanced technology. Because these jump pads are dual paths, they depict 2 different signs for choosing which location to be sent to, and each of these little signs depict the name of the area you'll be flung to. Separately, these don't hold too much story importance, but together they pose a very interesting question. How would Group 935, when building these jump pads, know they were going to these places? The jump pads seem to have been built to be exactly where they are in the Dark Aether, and not pulled from some other universe or time. How else would they know one was going to fling you to the Cosmodrome or Ashwood? This leads us with 2 likely answers. Firstly, it's possible that Group 935 was already studying or exploring the Dark Aether in the alternative world Richtofen comes from. This means they could have come to the Dark Aether and constructed these jump pads for aid in exploration, similar to, I guess, Project Janus, sending in operatives to the Dark Aether to study and collect resources. The biggest question here would be how stuff like Janus Towers would have been here already, or even Liberty Falls at all, considering how long ago this would have had to have been here if this alternative Richtofen is from the old multiverse. Or the second and more interesting possibility is that some remnant of Group 935 is still functioning in the Dark Aether, and they only very recently built these jump pads. The idea is not only a tad more plausible, as technically even Richtofen alone could be the remnant of 935, but it also gives us much more story potential. A large part of the iconography of classic zombies was seeing the new incredible technology cooked up by Group 935 every DLC. And if Richtofen or even some Group 935 scientists from his universe are continuously producing new technology every DLC, we could return to that. Speaking of technology, a thing of interest I did want to briefly mention is the car, old Tessie, and the way you activate her. Placing TED inside the car, according to Treyarch, will repair the truck for use. This seems to be the first upgrade for the truck, as there are many different upgrades for it. When they show us footage of this, there is something I couldn't help but notice. When we place TED, there is already a receptacle for him in the truck's dashboard, and he even says himself,
Old Tessie and Ted, together again.
Both of these seem to imply the same thing. Despite the fact that Tessie may look like an older 1990s vehicle, Tessie was built with functionality for TED in mind. This car seems to not only require TED to run, but if it already has a place to install his head, then surely they were made with tandem use in mind. So, where would a vehicle that looks this old but somehow be capable of interfacing with TED come from, and why? And if they are together again, what separated them in the first place? I'll play a clip from Treyarch discussing in one of the intel drops about TED specifically now.
They're gonna find TED.
TED has been a fixture in the Dark Aether for a long time. He knows his way around.
He's gonna let players know what's going on here and help them find the clues to survive.
Trey described TED as being a fixture in the Dark Aether for a while and knowing his way around the realm. So he's likely been in there, catapulted in there at the end of Tag the Totem along with the rest of the old multiverse. Along the way, he's found ways of surviving, even until now. It's interesting as well because there's the TED trial machine as well, so there's multiple iterations of TED. Are they coming from different multiverses? Has he been created over and over again, similar to Klaus? Who knows? Well, on the subject of things we can only briefly see in a few trailer shots, there was one thing that may just be a mistake, but I felt was worth talking about. In a very short snippet, we see Maya in a shot looking healed, not sickly or white like the other characters. This could just be a mistake in the trailer, as it's quick and only briefly shown, but it's worth considering the possibility that Maya may be the first soul we rescue here. As it does mention in the trailer that the point of this is going to be saving our souls, and probably in this main quest and the DLC quest we're going to be rescuing the souls of all of the characters, kind of an inverse to Black Ops 3's story, and this could suggest that rescuing the characters' souls at the end of the Easter eggs will give us restored skins for them, so they look like they did before their souls were removed. So they're not all sickly and white with the weird white eyes with the thick veins. It would make for easy Easter egg rewards, especially if we're going to potentially be getting multiple skin rewards with stuff like Curse Mode. And that brings us to the two topics I feel may take a bit longer to discuss. Firstly, the twins. We see a few different snippets in the trailer that seem to be setting up two characters called the twins. War Writing mentions them as well, as what seems to be them is shown when a TV glitches out. It says the twins lie. These characters are only mentioned very briefly and teasingly, but emphasized in such a way I feel they will likely be pivotal characters in Ashes of the Damned. If they are lying, then I think that's going to be the twist of the Easter egg, where they trick us into helping them or freeing them or whatever, and then backstab us in a similar way to the Shadow Man on Shadows of Evil. More than likely, if the Grey Voice, the Warden, the Cowboy is our enemy, the twins will be the Easter egg characters who we will talk to that guides us through the quest of the map and explains more about the world and our situation. The question then becomes, who are they? The silhouettes we see seem to look feminine, suggesting the twins are potentially two women or girls, but they look younger, more akin to the old silhouette we saw of Samantha Maxis back in the day. This immediately brings to mind an obvious candidate then, Ava Jansen and the Entity. And while I considered that possibility at first, the more I've pondered on it, the more it seems impossible. Most people are thinking that this is Ava and the Entity, but I don't think she should exist right now in the storyline. She's not been conceived yet. That doesn't happen until the Requiem crew exit the Dark Aether, and she's then born. The Entity spawns in the Dark Aether simultaneously, but then the Entity is defeated at the ending of Modern Warfare Zombies. So even if Ava got pulled back in time from the mirror, the Entity entity shouldn't really exist yet, so it wouldn't explain why there are twins. Even though the entity and Ava do refer to each other as twins and sisters throughout Modern Warfare Zombies. Even if Ava was pulled into the past and will be a part of Black Ops 7 Zombies, which I believe is pretty likely, but in the future story, the entity does not exist yet, like I said. The entity is created the day Ava is born, and so even if Ava is here, she does not yet have a twin. If the phrase the twins is referring to Ava and the entity, it is more so prophetic, pointing towards the future. And if that's true, the only way I see it resolving right now is the way we have been theorizing for some time, with a theory I came up with back just after the ending of Modern Warfare Zombies. My theory was Ava will go into the past via the Dark Aether and meet her mother, Elizabeth Grey, as well as the other Terminus crew characters. She will explain to them her origin, and they will understand the entity is required to stop the Great Voice in the future, so they are essentially forced to make her. This would then mean the future Ava, still in the Dark Aether when they make the new current Ava, would become the entity, and then go on to be erased, causing the events to loop, essentially a bootstrap paradox. The entity could have always been the future iteration of Ava this entire time, and she was actually helping out and protecting her younger self. This could potentially be how they stop the Warden long term, by trapping him in a cycle of Ava's creation. It would also be the only way I see the Ava events playing out where it doesn't feel very uncomfortable for Ravenov, as he has implied he did not really consent to what happened in terms of her birth, and as far as we know, his DNA was not harvested yet. So if it means he did not choose it, it could be because it was already set in stone because of a bootstrap paradox. This would mean that either Grey or Richtofen did not have to forcefully take his genetic material to create Ava. He can simply hesitantly feel like he has no choice due to the paradoxical nature of time travel. The other option is that the twins are entirely new characters we haven't seen before. This is the more likely option to me at the moment. A thing I have trouble wrapping my head around before is that when we are warned of the Shadowsmiths in Modern Warfare Zombies, they are referred to in the plural sense, like they are a group.
The Shadowsmiths will take you.
This is interesting because who we see appear to take Ava in that cutscene is the Warden from Black Ops 7 Zombies, the Great Voice, Panos' contact, but he is a singular character, and the quotes in Modern Warfare Zombies very clearly imply this is multiple beings being talked about. So perhaps the twins are other Shadowsmiths, even if potentially the Cowboy is one. Their dark appearance in the TV shot would make sense if they can become shadow/smoke like the Warden, obviously referred to as the Shadow Benefactor to Panos, and seems to be made up of prima materia with the ashes going around him in the mirror and also the ash going around the skulls. And it would definitely make the Shadowsmiths a far more interesting faction if we work with two of them to battle against the Great Voice. Perhaps they betray the faction similar to the Dark Aether demons we work with in Vanguard, or perhaps the Warden is the traitor and they need our help to stop him. So it could be they are both working together or secretly, or potentially these twins could be tricking us to going against the Warden and putting a stop to him, but it only unleashes their wrath, and they might actually be prisoner by him in Ashwood, considering the fact that he has jailed these characters and Ashwood could be his home, which I'll come on to in a second. But another interesting idea is that if these twins are not Ava Jansen and the Entity, their existence could spark the idea for why Ava and the Entity is created in the first place, because the Entity, also similarly to the Great Voice as we see in the mirror, seems to be made up of this misty purple ashy-like substance like the Great Voice. And maybe the twins are too, and so maybe it sparks the idea of whatever their origin story is for the twins as to why Ava is then made, because they basically copy whatever the reason is for their existence. But let's continue. Speaking of the Warden, the last thing I want to discuss today is his potential connection to one of the points of interest, Ashwood. As we discussed earlier, each of the points of interest seemingly have a connection to a character. The one singular outlier here is Ashwood, the western town. It not being Purgatory Point from Buried actually surprised me at first, as most people have been theorizing that he is of course Jeb Brown, but considering they did choose a new town, it does tell us a couple of things. Firstly, the Great Voice is almost 100% confirmed to not be Jeb Brown now, like I was speculating. If he was, they would have almost certainly used Jeb's hometown of Purgatory Point. This means our other theory that he was a human at one point pulled into the Dark Aether is likely the case. Secondly, if they did choose to create a new fictional location for what seems to be the largest and most important point of interest in the map, it must carry some kind of big meaning to the backstory here, and I see no real potential for a western town to connect to any of these characters except our new villain, the Warden the Great Voice from beyond. Now, of course, in the intel with Panos and the Great Voice on Reckoning, they do make mention of this buried western town, which people were thinking could be buried at this point, but now we know it is in fact Ashwood. Now, yes, it probably has thematic similarities to buried being temporarily displaced through time, and this same seems to have been happened, but this time it was sucked into the dark ether, so there's definitely parallels there, but I don't think it is literally meant to be Jeb Brown's town. This new villain is very clearly a character who originates from this time period, and it seems from the above shot of the map we get that Ashwood is the centerpiece point of interest in the large figure of 8 we have seen this map depicted as, so it would stand to reason that this was the original location pulled here first, and it was likely surrounded by the other stuff afterwards. So I would bet Ashwood is where we will begin to see exactly how the Warden ended up in the dark ether, and that he was in Ashwood when it was pulled here. Perhaps he is even responsible to some degree, or maybe the reason he wants to put everything back into the old multiverse is not to rule it, but to return Ashwood to where it once was. Even the name Ashwood in Ashes of the Damned, the literal title, seems to suggest it will be the centerpiece of the map's story, but only time will tell. What do you think? Are we onto something with the Ashwood point of interest? Are those big purple tendrils part of some magical spell holding the locations in place? It really reminds me of the Lovecraftian mythos and things like the giant apothecon in the sky and Shadows of Evil. Very, very creepy. I love the vibes of this map and sort of that eldritch horror. And who are the twins? Is it Ava and the entity? Should we even expect to see Ava? Or could this be the Shadowsmiths, actually? Let me know your thoughts down below. Thank you for watching the video. Make sure to subscribe if you're not here for latest and greatest Call of Duty news and information. So anyways, thank you for watching, and bye. To conclude this video, I want to shout out the fact that I finally decided to make a Patreon and Cameo account, both of which will be linked below if you want to help support the channel. On Patreon, you can sign up for the lowest tier of just $1.50 a month to get exclusive access for my Discord, where we can discuss zombies lore, trivia, or whatever you desire. A place where you lot, my community, can better connect. Your names will also appear at the end of videos thanking you. For $5.50 a month, you get all of that, and I will be doing exclusive monthly Q&As. And for $16.50 a month, you again get all of that, and I will be doing exclusive lore videos, such as unpacking niche parts of the Treyarch documents I've been breaking down on my channel that don't as much suit a main channel video. For the highest tier, only for those with the ability to and who really want to help out the channel, you get special bonuses I've yet to determine and verbal shoutouts at the end of every video. Over on Cameo, I can do funny videos reading lines from zombies, memes like how do we tell him, birthday wishes for friends or family, or whatever else you desire, practically anything. Of course, none of this is necessary, just watching and enjoying the videos helps me immensely and I greatly appreciate it. However, I think it's about time I start setting up additional revenue streams because Zombies' popularity is tumultuous and always goes through ups and downs. As I'm sure you've lately seen on the channel, viewership is down a lot, we go through big highs when new games release, but then during these drought periods, I need more income stability so I don't have to worry as much about it and I can focus more on improving the quality of the content. My highest quality videos are not always the ones that best please YouTube algorithms, so instead, this way I can produce my best work knowing I don't have to think as much about how well the content's going to perform. So if you'd like to support me on Patreon for exclusive content or would like a simple Cameo message, you can do so to further support me via the links below, but only if you can afford it and you actually want to help me. Don't feel like you are forced to, don't worry, I'll survive. It would just help relieve some of the pressure during inconsistent periods on the channel so I don't have to solely rely on AdSense revenue and still maintain the sheer quantity and quality of content that I put out. Obviously I pump out literally a boatload of content and some of these are absolutely crazy projects over hour-long videos, so it's a lot on my plate, especially when these videos don't perform particularly well. And I've not been doing many sponsorships lately to help supplement revenue either, so it would greatly help. Thank you for any generous person once again who does kindly support the channel. It means the absolute world and will really help keep this boat afloat.